I want to talk to you a little bit about resiliency, and how does it help with diversity, especially in the corporate world. A lot of people are talking about DEI, they're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but there's a big gap in there. There is a big gap in there because I think people are just focusing on just filling in the gap for, oh, well, let me hire a person of color, let me hire a Hispanic, let me hire a different group or nationality or ethnic background just to fill that spot, to say that, well, if you look at my roster, then, I am diverse. But I want to go a little bit deeper. I want to explain something to you. So the question I want to ask you, do you know if your company is diverse? And how does your company demonstrate equity and inclusion? It doesn't have to be a company. It could be your organization, could be a for-profit or not-for-profit. But today I want to talk to you about how you can improve diversity, equity, and inclusion in any company. And here is what I need you to understand. Diversity is the key to resiliency. Diversity is the key to resiliency. What do I mean by that? When you think about a tree is able to stand because it has the right amount of roots to hold it inside or in the earth or in the ground. Diversity deals with the different skill sets that you have in your company. It deals with the expertise that you have in your company. It deals with the different kind of mindsets that show up at the table, or should I say be invited at the table. A lot of times companies fail because they don't have a diverse amount of individual and or skill set and or expertise at the table. My background is in anatomy and physiology, and for the past 13 years, I have been involved with kinesiology, rehab therapy, and I've taken that knowledge, so to speak, and use it to do corporate trainings to help people understand how diversity improves resiliency in their company. We're currently doing a tour at different schools called Building Resilient Learners for Life. What I have got to understand is simply this. If I look at my hand here, I have 4 fingers, 1 thumb, 5 phalanges. The issue is a lot of people don't understand that in their companies, every appendages, everything that's on the hand helps you to make a fist. If making a fist is the end goal for your company, then you're going to need every finger, all the thumbs, or should I say all hands on deck. Having only certain people at the table limits you and reduces your ability to be resilient. Resiliency is the ability to withstand. Resiliency is the ability to withstand, and not just withstand. Withstand meaning to overcome tough time, to survive the ups and downs, to survive inflation, to survive layoff, to survive transition. That's what resiliency is all about from a corporate perspective. Having the right people in your company will help you to survive the downtimes. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to go back to the example of my hand from anatomy and physiology perspective. In order for me to make a fist, I am going to need all the muscles in my hand to come together to make sure I can actually grip or make the fist that I want to make. Your company is the same thing. If your end goal is to increase KPI, then you want to make sure that you have the right individuals in place. But it cannot just be a certain kind of individual. You have to make sure you have a diverse amount of individual who come with different skill set at the table and are allowed to participate in the discussion that's going to change the trajectory of your business. is this going to change the trajectory of how you handle either discrimination or racism or inclusion in your company? Let's put it all together. When you think of diversity, think of input from different angles. Input from different angles. My fingers are all spread out from a high five, but they're all going in different direction. They're not all pointing in at the same angle. Some are on a different angle. They're all on a different angle. But here's where it gets dicey. When they're ready to make a fist, it doesn't matter what direction they're pointing in. They all come together. If the fist is the table, that means that the people who are making the decision in your company should be allowed to come to the table to help make the fist. What is the purpose of the fist? The purpose of the fist is to help you to pack a punch. Your punch is your impact in the industry that you serve. Your punch is your ability to create a goods and or service that cause your customers to keep coming back over and over again, to cause your customers to feel welcome, to feel like they're being served. That's your punch. So the question now is, are you forming a fist and or you packing a punch in your organization? Or is your business, in a nutshell, having the influence that it needs out there? In order for your company to have an impact, you have to make sure, you have got to make sure that your mindset, your intentions, your statement of purpose lines up or meet a need in the marketplace. So what do I mean by your statement of purpose? Your mission statement, your vision statement. What is my purpose? What are you here to do? What do you want to accomplish in your business? What do you want to accomplish, or what things do you want to change in the industry? When we talk about diversity, diversity means coming together. The crazy part is that a lot of people are thinking diversity is just hiring one or two different people, or hiring a few BIPOC individual and or people from an Asian background or people from a different nationality, and that satisfy the diversity. It doesn't. Having diverse people in your company does not mean that you are operating from a diverse perspective. You may just have them there, but not inviting them to the table, not empowering them to make decisions that will change the trajectory of your company does not mean you're diverse. You may have the players, but they're not playing in the game. You have to make sure that you empower them to be in the game, to take part in the game, and to show them how their expertise, their background, and how those come together to improve the company. When I remember doing a talk a few years ago in Orlando, Florida, and it was on change management, and a lot of people came up to me after the talk and said, wow, how do you make the concept of change management seems so easy? Andrew, how do you do that? You seem like you were just having a conversation with me, and I feel like I get it. Here is what I told them. I said, listen to me. You need to understand that change management is about changing your thinking toward a particular thing and or task that you're trying to accomplish. I will say it again. Change management is changing your thinking about how you do a particular task in your company with a specific endpoint. Here is the most important part. The task is not as important as the people who are getting the task done. The task is not as important or more important than the people who are getting the task done. As a matter of fact, the people are most important, because if you put the people first and you empower them, I guarantee the task will be done. All you have to do is just to explain to people, here is my task, here's what I want to get done, and get the right people on board. And not just get them on board, making sure that they're empowered to make decisions, that you teach and coach, and make sure there's professional development to help those people to get to the end point. The end point is the vision, is the mission of what you want to accomplish. Is the mission of what you want to accomplish. You see, a lot of people or a lot of companies, they have this mission statement, but they don't have a mission statement, and they do not have a purpose statement. A purpose statement is different from a mission statement. A mission statement is what I'm going to do. A purpose statement is why I'm going to do. Do you understand? Mission is the what I'm going to do, and the purpose is why I'm going to do. Okay? The vision statement is who is involved. This is what I see. This is the future of what I want to create here. You need a diverse group of individuals who are bought in to what you want to get done, who are on board, who have access to the table to make the end point a reality. Does that make sense? So when we talk about this diversity and inclusion, a lot of people are misinterpreting. They think it's just a program that they run at their company so that they can be funded, so that they can get access to extra capital, because they want to say, you know, I am diverse here, or I may put up a particular flag, or I may run a particular ad. That does not mean that you're diverse, because only certain people get access to the table. If the right people don't get access to the table, listen to me, you do not have diversity. You may be acting like it, but there is no lights, there is no camera, and there is no action. And so what I want to get you to understand today is to know that diversity is the key to making you resilient. Let me break a few things down. Going back to my talk when I did that in Orlando, Florida, the people came around me and they were asking me, so Andrew, how come you make it so easy? I said, I'm not sure if it's easy now. I think that I make it clear so you can grasp what I'm saying. The fact is not that it's easy, it's that you understand it. And most people who are talking about diversity and inclusion have made it so convoluted that you really don't even understand where you fit in. So here's what I told them. I said, the concept of understanding what the mission statement is, what the vision statement is, and the purpose statement is most important to the people that are in your company. And then I said to them, once you have that, you got to make sure there is clarity. Make sure, let me tell you something. You know, my grandmother used to say that there's a whole scripture that she used to talk about. She said that with all you're getting, get an understanding. Get an understanding. When you understand how things come together, when you understand why things are the way they are, when you understand the purpose, the mission statement and the vision statement, and people are clear on what they ought to do, it's important that they get that part. Then how they're supposed to do it is only left to do with instruction. You just got to say A, B, C, D. Here is what I need to get done. The problem that we're facing is that the instructions are not being clear. People are not being clear. They want to keep it so almost like a top secret. Like you have to meander your way through all of these different steps to get to the end point. It doesn't have to be like that. This is what I was talking to them in Orlando, Florida. And I said, change management, again, is changing your mindset about a task and the people that are doing the task. You cannot put the task before the people, or put the cart in front of the horse. You have to make sure the horse who is pulling the cart is taken care of. I'm talking about their psychological well-being, their social well-being. You have to talk about their financial well-being and everything, especially their spiritual well-being. Here is how these come to be when I talk about change management. Are you talking to your employees about financial well-being? Meaning, sir, I know that you've been working here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Is the pay that we're giving you adequate? Is it helping you to meet your needs? I mean, it's very rare that companies will have that conversation with their employees. Do you feel that you're being rewarded? And even if it's not just the finance, how are you meeting your daily living or your expectation? Are you taking care of your family? Could you imagine If during your review, when you're having your review with your employees, you're having that kind of conversation, you're saying, listen, I care about you. I want to know if we as a company are meeting your needs. The trajectory, the landscape, the atmosphere, everything about your company will change, because now people want to be there. They feel like this person, this company as a whole cares about me. And they know that I am here to give my best. But in order for me to give my best, you know what's happening? I got to make sure that I take care. You know, there was a scripture that said, you know what? You cannot take advantage of the ox that show out the corn. You got to make sure you take care of the horse that's pulling the carriage. You got to take care of the people that are working. Doesn't matter what shift, graveyard or night yard or daylight. It doesn't matter. You got to make sure you're taking care of your people that are doing the work, that their feet are on the ground. Have the conversation about their finance. You want to change your workplace? You want to talk about change management? Make sure that you are having those conversations to your employees about their finance. The next thing you want to talk about is, how are they? Do you even have a wellness program in your company that gives people the opportunity to work on their cardiovascular? Do you have a fitness regimen at your workplace that specifically targets people in their posture? Do you have an ergonomic specialist that comes into your company that reviews the chairs, the table, the setup in your company that your people are sitting at for 8, 9, 10, even 15 hours? Do you know that how you sit and for how long you sit impacts everything about your job performance? We're talking about diversity. We're talking about resiliency. And we just now included change management, because we got to change our thinking about how we run business. We got to change our thinking about how we operate in the workplace. You know, the reason why I'm having this conversation, because I don't normally do a bunch of lives. I started doing this tour, building resilient learners for life, at colleges and for some of the school districts in Toronto, York region, Niagara, Halton, and not just Toronto, but we're going to be going into Buffalo and some schools in the United States also. But the purpose of it is to help people to understand the key and what is resiliency. But then when I started having these conversations, teachers were pulling me to the side, principals were pulling me to the side and say, Andrew, wow, oh my goodness, this is so great for the students, but I think the teachers also need this stuff. I say, well, let's make it happen. So we're doing a program, a PD, professional development for teachers. Now, Andrew, you're speaking to students and teachers. How does this work? Well, I have served in the classroom for over 12 years, almost 13 years now. So I am a retired teacher. So I have taught in Jacksonville, Florida for several years. And I retired there and I came back up here to Toronto, Canada. And so this is why I'm applying this. So I've gotten to see it on both spectrum. I've gotten to see it from a student perspective. I've been in the classroom teaching, and I taught in Duval County. And when I was there, I got Teacher of the Year, not because I'm here to toot my horn, but because I saw the need in the classroom. The school that I was teaching at was 98% black, and we had a few Hispanics, 1 or 2 whites sprinkled in there, but majority of the people look like me, and we were failing the FCAT. Every year, we're failing the science portion of the FCAT. And so what I did, I went in there, I talked to these students, and they're telling me, Mr. Guy, we can't do it. We're not good at math. We're not good at science. They told us we're not going to make it. They told us we're not good enough. That's why we get all these subsidies coming to our school, the free lunch, all of these different things, because yes, they have a Title IX. And so Title IX, if you didn't know, is government subsidies for like low income areas, right? So I was working at one of those schools. I said to the students, I said, I'm going to challenge you for you to start doing well in getting ready for the FCAT. In Ontario, they have the same thing. I think it's the Ontario. I don't remember the exact name right off the top of my head right now, but it is a comprehensive test that they do here to test to see how the students are. It's like a progress, right? And so when I was there, I challenged the students Then they said, Mr. Guy, but I'm not able to make it at that particular time. I said, okay, no problem. I stayed after school. I said, what is your issue? Some were talking about food. Mr. Guy, yeah, we eat here, but the food is nasty, or whatever the case may be. I said, okay, I'm going to disqualify all the excuses that you have. So what I did, I took a portion of my check and I used it to buy food for the students. Here's what I did. You can do this in your school also, but you have to see a bigger picture. So I come up with a mission statement. I came up with a vision statement. I came up with a purpose statement, and I sold it to the students. When I said I sold it to the students, I sold it to them because I want buy-in. Selling it to the students, you say, listen, this is how this is going to benefit you. This has nothing to do with the color of your skin. As a matter of fact, if you check the history, go all the way back to Timbuktu, you go all the way back to the facts. Let me tell you something. The blackness of your skin means that you have undergone some different things, some struggles, but it makes you stronger. He said, Mr. Guy, but we're black, we're not good as everybody else. I said, let me break this down. Let me explain. And I gave them this little analogy of, what the typical black man is. He said, Mr. Guy, but we came from slavery. So they started giving me a whole bunch of excuses as to why they couldn't. I said, let me excuse your excuse. I didn't lose my point. I'm going to go back to it, but I got to explain this so you can get it. I said to my students, I said, listen, man. I said, you as a person of color, BIPOC, you are the strongest of the strongest, of the strongest of the strongest. I said, Mr. Guy, what do you mean by that? I said, here's what's happening. Take, for example, the triangular slave trade. I said, I am from Jamaica, right? I was born in Jamaica, but my people are descendant from Ghana. So I said, I am from Africa originally, and then my people were taken from Ghana and then went on the triangular slave trade, and a portion of them were dropped off in the Caribbean. So those group of individuals that were dropped off in the Caribbean, some went to England, and we're talking about triangle trade, slave trade, because it was all about sugarcane and making rum. Okay? So hence the name Ray and Nephew. Okay? So what happened was a group of them were dropped off in the Caribbean. So my people were dropped off in the Caribbean. And so I am a descendant of those people in Jamaica, because those people who came from Ghana went to Jamaica, and that's how I became. I say, let's talk about the route. I said, in America, they talk about the Underground Railroad. And Harriet Tubman is the main heroine when we talk about that aspect of the slave trade and our background. I said, let me give you something else. I said, imagine when they were looking for people to work the fields, when they're looking for people to cut the sugar cane, to pick the cotton. Where did they go? They went to Africa to find the strongest of the strongest of the toughest who will survive in these remote area. They went there. Okay, remember, they want to find the strongest of the strongest and the toughest of the toughest. They went to where? Africa. No problem. So they went to Africa and they got all these people that they went and they manipulated and say, hey, listen, you know what? Give me your land. Give me your land and I will give you the Bible. That's one aspect. I will tell you all about religion and how you can be saved and all of this different stuff. And while they were giving them the Bible, they were pulling out the land underneath. They were pulling out the land because the land had all the natural resources on it. The greatest and the most plentiful and wealthiest place on earth right now is Africa. Africa. Diamond, gold, every kind of precious thing that you can find, go to Africa. It's there. One of my goals is to be able to go to Ghana one day, to go to Johannesburg one day. My people from Africa, if you're listening to me, bring Andrew E. Guy over there to do a talk on resiliency, to let them understand that you are the strongest of the strongest, of the toughest, and you're still carrying on. Here's what happened. So I said to my students, I said, imagine Imagine that they went and got the strongest of the strongest, because these are the people that will only survive. The reason why, because you had smallpox, you had a whole bunch of these different diseases that came out of Europe, and people were dying. People were dying. The Black Plague, people were dying by the millions. So who was there to work the land? They still needed somebody to work. They went where? Africa. So when they went to Africa, they get the strongest of the strongest and the toughest of the toughest. And so they put them on a boat. They gave them some story. Hey, listen, we're taking you, and I'm giving you a rendition now of what his story says. He said, we're going to take you on a boat ride. Paraphrasing. Oh, some of these guys gave up their land, boom, and went on the boat ride. Long boat ride. After a while, they realized, whoa, we are not going back. No, we're not going back. You're not going back. As a matter of fact, you're in this boat. You're in this boat, and thousands of you started to die. Of the thousands that they collected, some died. So that means they had the strongest of the strongest, but of the strongest of the strongest, some of those died. So that means whatever left were the strongest of the strongest of the strongest. Are you following me? Are you tracking? One of my favorite speaker, Myron Goldman, always say that, are you tracking? Tracking mean, are you following me, right? So I'm asking you, are you tracking? And so what happened is, some of these people die, but then they went to get the strongest of the strongest. So if the strongest of the strongest were all on the boat, and some of those strongest of the strongest died, that means whoever survived was the strongest of the strongest of the strongest. Are you getting me? So then, some of those strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest died off, and then left some of those. So now, who survived from those were the strongest of the strongest of the strongest, right? And so it kept going on. Some people kept dying off. Some died off because of transmitted disease that they attracted from some of the oppressors that were on the boat. So all of these diseases were introduced to them, and they had to survive. Those who survive, and this is why resiliency is so key. This is why resiliency is the thing. This is why I am telling everybody the number one thing that you need to understand is about resiliency. You can have millions of dollars in the bank. If you're not resilient, you will lose it. If you're not resilient in your thinking, in your planning, in your stewardship, you will lose it. Resiliency, I'm telling you, I have changed my complete platform, and I've been speaking for many years, teaching for many years, and the number one message I am talking about for 2022 and 2023 and for the rest of my life is resiliency. It makes the difference. It is the difference. Let me calm down. Let me calm down and bring this to you. Let me calm down. And so if the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest died in the boat, whoever made it to Jamaica was the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest. So the black people that you see right now, if you're a person of color right now, if you are BIPOC, if you are black, indigenous person of color, you are the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest, because you were resilient enough to survive. Millions of your ancestors died. Some were murdered, some were killed, but you survived. You survived because you were resilient. Resiliency is the key. If you're resilient, you can make it. And so I told the students, I said, listen, you are the strongest of the strongest. Don't tell me that you accept the message, what people are telling you in the schools, and your teacher tells you you're dumb. You're not dumb. She is dumb. He, the teacher, is dumb. And I said this to these students. I said, let me tell you something. I want you to also imagine that a teacher calls you dumb, but you probably just misled. You probably just didn't have the information. You probably didn't have the wherewithal. You didn't have the instruction or the guidance. So you weren't able. You weren't able to perform on the level that other students are performing at. Don't count yourself out. If a teacher calls you dumb, it's because they're misinformed and they do not have the skill set to help you to get to the next level. Your follow-up should be, Miss or Sir, you call me dumb. Make me undumb. Teach me how to be not dumb. And if they cannot fulfill that, you don't need to listen to them. Matter of fact, you should be asking to transfer to a next class, because they're just labeling you and they cannot put the content in the container to make it a better product. Period. They got to live it, and they got to make sure that they are first the example before they can say, hey, you're dumb. No one is dumb. Here is why I say that no one is dumb. I spoke to the students and I said it. I said, listen to me carefully. I said, listen, you're not dumb. You're able. You're created to do amazing things. I said, and I gave them the scripture that my grandmother always talk about. It's Psalm 139 verse 14. I said, listen to me. You're fearfully and you're wonderfully made. And hear what? Your soul knows this. He said, Mr. Guy, what do you mean by that? I said, the soul is the hidden part that nobody can touch. And I'm saying to you, I said that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are the works of the Creator, and your soul knows this. So don't listen to what everybody else is saying. Don't listen to what social media is saying. The deepest part of you knows that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're smart. You came from greatness. And so I'm telling you, that scripture, I told these kids. I said, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just here to tell you something that helped me to get through. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I said, Andrew, when things got tough, and I haven't even talked about my background and how I'm able to be where I'm at today and how I was able to help these students. Long story short, having spoke to these students, I stayed after school. I took a portion of my check and I bought food. I went to the KFC. I went to the chicken place. I went to the Pizza Hut place. I went to Domino's. I went all over the place in Jacksonville, Northeast Jacksonville, Florida. And I asked them, I said, listen to me. My students' parents shop at your place. Can you sponsor me and provide food for me? On this particular day, I'm going to come over here. You're going to give me food and I'm going to take it back and I'm going to feed the students because I'm going to reward them and they must do well on my test. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Instagram. I had students lined up in the hallway, laying on the floor, studying for Mr. Guy's science test. It was crazy. Principal came to me and said, Mr. Guy, what's going on down here? What is going on down here? I wear tie to school, right? So I used to dress up in a tie, but I always wear running shoes because I tell the kids, I said, you never know when I got to run because this is Florida. You know, we get lockdowns. So I'm dressed up in my suit and tie, and my reward for a student that does well, that gets a 90 and above on my test, I say, you're going to get my tie. So I went to Walmart and I bought a whole slew of tie. I mean, huge box of ties. And whenever a student does well on my test, they know, Mr. Guy, bring it. I got to get that tie. So I got students walking around the school wearing t-shirts and wearing my tie. And I said, that's your reward. And whenever the principal sees a student wearing a tie and a t-shirt, obviously because tie don't go with a t-shirt, right? They knew that this student did well on a science test. The next thing I did was I challenged the students. I said, you know what? Because everyone who was 6 foot and above or at least have access to a basketball thought they were going to the NBA. I said, no problem. If you get a 91 and above on my test, then you're going to have to play me one-on-one. Here's the crazy part. I just gave them that challenge. And I said, you will have lunch in my class. You will not have the regular food in the cafeteria. I will order lunch and then you will come and sit in my class and we're going to have food as a group. The next thing that will happen on Friday evening, the boys, only the boys now, the boys who did well on 91 and above on my test were able to meet with me in the gym with the approval of the principal. And I played those guys one-on-one basketball. I'm telling you, I beat the lights out of them. I'm telling you, and here's what was crazy about that. It's that it helped me to stay in shape cardiovascularly. I used these guys to help stay in shape when I was teaching. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If you're a teacher and you're not doing something to engage yourself, if you're not doing something to stay in shape, to stay healthy, to stay fit, you know what's crazy? You're not going to be able. You're not going to be able to be at your best as a teacher. A teacher that is not in shape mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially is not going to be a good teacher. Period. Has nothing to do with the color of your skin. If you're not in shape, you will not be resilient enough to carry out the lesson plan to make sure that your student get it. To actually do DI, we call it differentiated instruction. When I do PD for our teachers, man, when I show up, I said, this is how you engage your student. This is how you lay out your lesson plan. This is how you engage with them to make sure they get the lesson. And then this is how you follow up with them. Oh my goodness. I have a thing that I call OBSCON. OBSCON mean observation and conversation. Observation and conversation is the conversation you have with the students to make sure that they're getting it. And then when you have that one-on-one conversation with them, you want to find out where are you missing, where you dropping the ball. When you do that, you get a better understanding of where your student is. Are we still talking about diversity and inclusion and resilience? Heck yeah, yes we are. But I'm trying to use this story to help you see my journey and where I'm coming from and how I've been involved in this game of diversity and inclusion and equity and resilience. So I'm using this story to help you to understand how I made and get these students who were not passing the Florida Comprehensive Assessment Test science portion and help them. Some of them got first place. Some of them got first place for the first time. And so with that being said, I talked to them about you're not weak. You're not dumb because you're black. I said, it's because people are missing the facts. It's because your teacher don't know who you are. It's because you don't know who you are. So I used it to help them to understand that if you're a person of color, BIPOC, you're coming from a tradition of resiliency. Your people have overcome and are still overcoming from being the strongest of the strongest of the strongest who died off on the slave trade, who died off on the triangular slave trade, and then make it to where you are today. You are the offspring of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest of the strongest, and you are still moving on. You're still going on. You have no reason to be thinking that you are weak or dumb or are unlearned or can't. I sold them that story. They bought that story. And not only did they buy that story, here are some of the things that we're able to accomplish in our school. Our students. I was so invested in my students. You know what the problem is now? I think teachers are paid well in Canada, but not all teachers in Canada are vestedly interested in teaching the next generation. I will say it here first, and I don't care if I catch flack for it. Not all our teachers in Ontario are bought into the success of our students. Period. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're white. I don't care if they're yellow. I don't care if they're green. I don't care if they're purple. I don't care what color. It's not about a color. It's about an intention. Not all of our teachers in Ontario are vested in the interest of your child making it. If you're a parent listening to this, you better make sure your child is doing homework every single day. My kids, every single day they do homework, because teaching is a parent's responsibility. They go to school only to show what they've been doing at home. The homework is done in the house. The teaching is done in the house. They go to school just to perform. School is just a stage. But in order for them to perform, you got to make sure you inoculate them with resiliency. I talked to the students in Florida about the same thing. I said, this is what you got to do. Man, I put so much time into these students that I used to bring my young child when he was like 1 year old or a couple. I bring him to school and put him in the corner of the class inside his little, carriage thing. And I carry on my teaching, on my coaching in the Saturday mornings. I used to come up there. And I bring the boy to school, and I said, son, here is what we're doing. He was young. He was like, yeah. And they just kind of loved the dude. I said, don't you touch the boy. And I bring him to school with me. My wife was like, she was just losing it. She said, how could you bring our son? I said, it's my son too. I bring him to school, and I put him down right there in the carriage, right there in the corner of the class, give him his bottle, and carry on with my teaching just like that. That's how much I was invested in the success of my student. Here's what we did. Not only did we do well on the FCAT, the science portion of the FCAT that year, I had people from the district came to my class to see how I did it. They wanted to know, Mr. Guy, how did you do this? And so we had a bunch of blue suits showed up in my class, and they wanted to know how we did it. Here is how I run my class. I had music going on. I had the kids jamming in my class. We're still talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity. I'm coming right back to it, but I got to finish this piece right here because I know it's going to help somebody. It's going to help some teacher. It's going to help some department. It's going to help somebody who cares about the next generation to inoculate these students with resiliency so they can overcome. We did well on the FCAT that year. Not only that, that same year, my students, which I went out and created fitness program to help them strengthen their low back and their shoulders, they won the drum off contest in our region. Here's the crazy part. When our students won the drum off, they were invited to the Florida Times Union Theater in Jacksonville, Florida. And if you know anything about the Florida Times Union Theater, it is historic, right? Here is the crazy part, the other crazy part. Bill Cosby, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Bill that now everyone has marred his name. And I'm not speaking about the behavior of what they have accused him of. None of that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to defend him. I'm not here to support. None of that. I'm just giving you some information. You can decide what you want to decide. But at the time, before all the accusations were going on, Bill Cosby was performing at the Florida Times Union Theater. And the crazy part is, I was the opener. I opened. This is crazy. I opened to introduce my student before Bill Cosby came out on the stage. It was an historic moment. Now, my students got a chance to go backstage and meet Bill Cosby personally. I mean, it was one of those things where I'm like, oh my goodness, here we are. This success came about where the kids wanted to drum off. Some were struggling because they had low back pain and they couldn't carry the drums for such a long time because some of them were weak. So what did I do? I put time aside. I created fitness program to help work on their low back to strengthen them. And man, I'm telling you, and the band department, I went into the band department before they had practice and I did motivational talks to encourage and empower them. The teachers allowed me to come into their classroom. I traveled around their classroom before I start my session early in the morning, and I give motivational talks to every class. Then I went to my class. And the teachers were like, why the heck are you doing that? I told them. I said, you know what? They said, Mr. Guy, why are you doing that? Because you don't even teach our class. I said, here's the problem. Here's the mindset that you need to change. I teach every student on this class, on this campus. They said, Mr. Guy, that's not true. I said, let me tell you something. There is one group of students, one group of teachers. We may have the students at different times, right? You may have them in 8th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade, wherever. But we're all inclusively, collaboratively working for the success of every student on the campus. So that means if we show that we care and we're vested in all of the students on this campus, we're on the same team, we should be doing what's best for them. And that's exactly what I did. I went around and I did a talk for the students twice a week to encourage them. If they skip another teacher's class, I am all over them like white and rice. I said, why did you skip that class? You get back to class. Why didn't you do the homework? I am on them. And so now the teachers were saying to me, man, thank you, because the person that was misbehaving no longer misbehaving in my class. If they're having a behavioral issue, I said, okay, ma'am, send them to my class, and give them homework while you send them to my class. And here's what happened. So I had students in my class supposed to have 22 students. Sometimes I have 40 students in my class. And I said, why are there so many students in my class? What happened is that they would send those students who were having behavioral issues in their class, but they still had work to be done. They were brought to my class and the principal said, Mr. Guy, can you handle all of these? I said, listen, let me tell you something. I am not just a teacher, I'm a parent and I don't play the music. You bring them. They brought the students to my class and they all sat there with their homework in the back of the class and they got the work done. Every homework was done. They turned it back in after the homework was done and then the bell rang, they went home. So here is what I did. And I want to encourage all the teachers to do this. When you get a chance to empower your other students who are not in your class, you're helping your other teachers. You really are helping your other teachers too. Think of it as a team effort. You're not just doing this for yourself, by yourself, with yourself. It's a collaborative process that you do. Make sure that if you see a student not doing something or not performing well or having issues with another teacher, it is incumbent upon you to make sure that you go out of your way to help that student or to encourage that student, because you never know what? It takes a team for the dream to work. Does that make sense? Long story short, I know I went way back in Florida to help you understand this stuff about how the students were doing because of diversity and resiliency. I use that story to help you to understand, because this is part of what I do when I go do professional development for our teachers, to help them to understand it is a collaborative, inclusive game that you are playing, and the goal is for every student to come out a winner, right? So, when we talk about this making it and the strongest of the strongest and resiliency, I gave that story to help our black students or BIPOC student and or teachers to help them connect with the students, to let them know you got to tell them the story, not his story, because they weren't there and somebody wrote the history that's not telling our story. And I said, you have to tell them the story that here they are, the strongest of the strongest. They survive all these arduous endeavors and are still surviving today. And I want them to understand that as they go through life, to make sure that they get it, that they're not dumb, they are smart, they are strong, they are capable, and most importantly, they're resilient. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what I talk to the students about in Florida. Now, fast forward to today. I am still teaching. Went off to complete a master's in kinesiology and sports performance at Southern Arkansas University. And so I use my background in anatomy and physiology in the workplace when I talk about diversity. So how does diversity and inclusion and this equity stuff come together? I said, listen to me, y'all. When you're talking about diversity, you're talking about the body. You're talking about the different components in the body. You're talking about different systems. You're talking about the musculoskeletal system. It is the support. It is the foundation of which the body is built upon. And then you're talking about the muscular system that is placed upon or layered upon the skeletal system. But I said it's not done yet. Because if you just have the bones and you have the muscles, but the muscles are not innervated with the specific nerve, then the muscles cannot move the bones. You will just have a blob. So I'm going to break it down. I have the skeletal system. It is the foundation. Then I have the muscular system embedded upon or laid on top of the muscles. And there's a specific direction and specific location where they are to innervate the bones. I said you got to have the nerve that innervates the muscles that attach to the bone. And now I said you need to have the thinking or the brain process, otherwise known as the CNS, the central nervous system, running down your spinal cord that branches out with the peripheral nerve, right? That comes out to your arms and all the other parts, that innervates these places. And it's your thinking that makes the difference. It's your thinking that moves them. There is a book that called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I recommend it to everybody I see. I recommend it to everybody I see. And I'll put the link in the description here when I'm done. But the book is powerful because it helps you to understand that it is all about your thinking. And so when I tell these people, I said, even if you have a black person, Indian person, Asian person, Pacific Asian person, or any other kind of nationality working in your company, but the thinking and the change management is not in place, you do not have diversity. You have a diverse population, but diversity is a function of the people coming together to accomplish a particular task. So if I have a Jamaican, a Mexican, an African, a Canadian, an Asian, a Nepalese, all working in a company, but only a few people are allowed to come to the table, you have an appearance of diversity, but not a function of diversity. And so here's what I tell the people when I do these professional development in these corporations. I say, in your company, you have different groups of people, but they have to be aggregation. In science, in the field of science, aggregation means coming together. It means, just like my fingers coming together to make a fist, the end point is not to make the fist. The end point is to pack a punch so I can impact my area of influence. So the fingers are basically the structure of people. But let's go a little deeper. Deeper than that, you need to have the muscles. You need to have the muscles attaching to the bones. And then the muscle attached to the bones, and then the nerves attaches to the muscle that attaches to the bones. Then you have to have the right thinking to innervate the nerve and cause the nerve to trigger and tell the muscle what to do and move the finger in the direction where you want to go. I know I've said a whole lot right there. But when you invite me to come out and speak, when you invite me to come and break this stuff down in your workplace, it makes more sense because I'm there with you and I can demonstrate this stuff to you and let you see what's going on. So when I'm talking to them about this and I give them a whole talk about anatomy and physiology, and they say, well, Andrew, how in the world and why in the world would you use anatomy and physiology? I am probably the only one that does this. That's why I'm unique. I am probably the only one that used the anatomy and the physiology to explain diversity and inclusion and equity to the corporate people out there. The reason why I do that is because everything else in life you achieve, you work for, you try to obtain, but your body, you are born with your body. Your body is a gift. Your body is the case that houses you. You will always have your body, even up until death. Up until you decay in the ground, you always have your body. The reason why I use the anatomy and physiology is because you always have your body. And it's the best cheating tool that you can ever use. When I say cheating tool, it's a cheat sheet. You can look at your body anytime. You're on the bus, whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea, you can look at your body and say, man, let's talk about this diversity thing here. I'm brown on the outside. Some people call it black, right? And I am also, watch this now, watch this. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm a different tone here, and I'm a different tone here. So if you want to call it that, I'm black and I'm tan, or I'm black and white at that same time. But let's not get it twisted and focus on the color of the skin, but let's focus on the function of the arm to lift somebody up from a lower level and bring them up to the next level so we can work together in peace. That's what I'm talking about. That's the resiliency. That is the diversity. That is the equity. That is the inclusion. And that is the conclusion of the matter, period. I get pumped when I talk about this stuff. You got to forgive me about this. When I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and resiliency, because they go together, it is a function, people. It is a function. It's not just something you label on some corporate billboard and say, hey, we got it going on here. No, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a function. It's something you do. It is purposeful to accomplish a mission. At the beginning, at the starting point, or at the center of it all, it's change management. I know I am the only one. I would go on the limb and say I'm the only one on earth in this space that is doing this way. How? Because many people separate it because they want to be specialists. They be like, oh, I only do change management. Oh man, change management is at the heart of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I only do diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. That's all I do. Nonsense. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of resiliency. And you need resiliency so you can overcome. You need resiliency so you can make it to the workday. You need resiliency where when you're an entry-level manager just slapped into an environment, you got a title, you got to survive. You need resiliency. But if you don't have the change management part of it, you cannot understand your purpose in the company. And if you don't have the diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you don't have a diverse mindset, if you don't have the equity, if you don't feel, you know what, let's pause for a minute right there. Let's put a pin right there, because this is where we get it twisted. We get it twisted here because a lot of people separate diversity, and they separate equity, and they separate inclusion. Here's the misconception. Whenever you think of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they always think black people. They always think that, oh, there's only a program for black people. There's only a program for people who are non-Eurocentric. That's a fallacy of composition. That is wrong. That is wrong. Diversity and inclusion at the crux, the nutshell, meaning that it's a group of people who have diverse thinking, who creates from their creativity, have a spot because they're invited at the table. The table, I'm talking about a tool table. A tool table is where you make stuff happen. It could be at the bargaining table. It's where everyone, not just everyone, but specific key players are invited to the table to create and to do a task to provide an outcome. And here's the outcome, an expected outcome. Does that make sense? I am so pumped. I am so excited. I'm telling you, I think that if I had the power to change how people think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would tell them they're doing it all wrong. And they need to focus on the body, the anatomy, and the physiology of it all. Because the reason why you need to teach people about diversity, equity, and inclusion by using the anatomy and physiology is because they don't have to go run and find a book to go look up the answer. It has to be a way of life, a way of living in the workplace where you live, work, and play. It has to be that way. Because we're given these pamphlets, we have these handouts, and it's not reaching people. You need to use your anatomy, because you need to use this, because it's the only thing that you have in the world. You don't have your car, you don't have your house, you don't have anything. You acquired or achieved those things because of labor. But what you come in the world with is your body. It's the anatomy and the physiology. This is why I use the anatomy and the physiology to teach people about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here is, let me break down the equity for you, man. Let me break this down, because I'm excited right now. Andrew, calm down. Andrew, calm down. Type that in the chat right now. Andrew, calm down, brother. Here is what's up. Diversity, I'm going to break it all down so you can get it. Diversity means different. It means different. It means various. It means varied. It means not the same. It means not the same. Diversity means different. It means to be differentiated. It means not the same. Let's go with equity. Equal. I don't know where they get it twisted, but they say equity. No one is equal. I've said it here, and I'll say it again. no one person or group of individual on planet Earth are equal. So diversity, you're diverse. Equity, you're not equal, right? And not everyone is included. They're not going to tell you this. Here's why. Equity means equal opportunity, but not all opportunities are equal, because not everyone has the background and the training and the wherewithal or the resiliency to perform at a level that will bring about an expected outcome. This is why equity is misinterpreted and misunderstood. Don't tell me that because I went to school and get a degree that I deserve the same opportunity as a guy who has been working in the field for 30 years, has the wherewithal, has his ears to the ground, understand the marketplace, understand his industry, and has expertise in the area of his field. And I should go ahead and just hire a guy because he's black, because you just want to fill a quota. The company's going to fail. That is not practical. You're going to hire a guy because he looks like you. You're going to hire just a Caucasian guy because you want to fill out your team to make it seem like, hey, this is my team. I got power team. I'm not going to hire the black guy. I'm not going to hire the Chinese guy. I'm not going to hire the Indian guy. I'm not going to hire the Mexican guy because he doesn't fit the picture. Rubbish. He's not equal to us. That's why you mess up. That's why your company fail. Because you hired them for the wrong reason, just to fill a quota, but you don't give them any power. You don't empower them. You don't give them any chance at the table. That's not diversity. That's not equity. Equity, when you talk about equity, is when you think of equity, think investment. When you think equity, think investment. So equity, like in your home, you have equity, right? Equity increases over time based on your property and if you're taking care of the house, right? I'm talking to the real estate people. They may understand what I'm talking about, right? Equity is an investment that is built up over time. So when you talk about diversity and equity, you're missing it. No group of individuals are equal because they have different skill set. And I'm going to drop something. I'm going to drop a thunder right now. Their biopsychosocial background does not enable every individual on earth to have the same or equal opportunity in life. Let me say that again. Their biopsychosocial background or historical background does not enable every individual on earth to have the same equal opportunity. There's some opportunity that person will not have because they don't have the background to perform of that. Here's my example of that. Will you put Usain Bolt with just your average factory run-of-the-mill runner and said, boom, both of you guys are going to the Olympics, and listen, man, Usain, I want you to bring back a gold medal. The factory worker, I want you to bring back a medal also. It's not going to work, because they did not have the same background training. When I talk about biopsychosocial, I'm talking about your biology, your anatomy and your physiology. You know, that's what I'm talking about. What are some things that you inherit from your parents? Ding, 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 ding. Resiliency was inherited. It's in our culture. It's in our nature. It's in our being. It's who we are as a people. We're resilient. So don't get it twisted when somebody talk about, oh, I'm not going to hire you because you're BIPOC and you might not be able to do this because you don't have the training. I have the resiliency. And if you have the resiliency to last for over 400 years of slavery, let me tell you something. You have the resiliency to do anything that you put your mind to. The reason why you're not performing at your levels because you're not putting your mind to it, and you have succumbed to what social media have said about it, that you're lazy, you're worthless, you're black, and you're not going to make it, and you're subpar. It is untrue. It is untrue. I know I'm downloading a lot on you today, but I want you to just go back and watch a video. Go back and share it with somebody. Go back and sit down, get some popcorn, and just have one of those movie nights. Because I'm not here to have some famous talk. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to educate. I am an educational consultant, and that's what I do. The problem in the world is that most people don't know what they do, and they don't know who they do it for, and they don't know why they do it. They don't have a mission statement, a purpose statement, and they don't have a vision statement. My purpose is to inoculate you so you can win where you are and to create and to build resilient leaders for life, period. Andrew E. Guy is here to help you to go check me out. I'm at www.andrewguyspeaks.com. I'm helping you to win where you are and to build resilient leaders for life. Period. Are you a leader as a parent? Yes, you are. Are you leading other people? Yes, you are. I want to talk to you. Are you leading a team of people? I want to talk to you. Are you a teacher in the classroom? I want to talk to you. And so they will tell you, oh, Andrew, you're not focused. You don't have a particular person that, you really should talk to. You don't. You don't have a avatar. You don't have an avatar. I said, let me tell you something. Are you a leader? Are you responsible for a group? Do you have an understanding of what you need to get done? Do you have an end goal in mind? Right? Are you a human being? Do you want to change your life? Do you want to build resiliency? Yes, I am your person. If you are a human being that wants to change your life, who have been through some tough things in life, you're my people. The title is what they use to separate people. The world is designed to separate people. That's why they have the sedan. That's why they have the sports car. That's why they have all different level of things. That's why they have apartment, high-rise, and that's why they have the townhouses, and that's why they have the detached, and that's why they have the palatial mansion. All of everything in society was designed to separate you. But let me tell you something. You are the most powerful when you come together, when you realize your power, your strength, your diversity, your equity, your expertise, and bring it together. You can change the world. But you got to know who you are first. If you don't know who you are, I've always said this. I've always said it. You can quote me on this. It's in one of my books. It said, if you don't know who you are, any identity will do. You can quote Andrew E. Guy on that. You don't know where that quote is? Go get my book, Work Your Words, Finding Your Pathway to Personal Success. It's on my bookshelf over there. It's over there somewhere in my bookshelf. Where is it? A bunch of them is over here. Okay, let me show you. Wait a minute. Yeah, so I'm in my office here. So I'm here talking to you. I got to get on the grind and get back onto work right now. But here's the book. Here's the book. Work Your Words. Find Your Pathway to Personal Success. Go get this book. Go get this book. Go get it. Work Your Words, Finding Your Pathway to Personal Success by Andrew E. Guy. There is another book that I need you to go get. The Anatomy of the Kingdom and the Power of Community. It's talking to the religious minds, and it's trying to help them to exchange their sense or their mindset of religiosity for one of function and purpose. Because God is not coming back for a building or a brick building. He's coming back for a people, and the people is a church. But that's another subject matter for another day. But go check out the book. Go check out the book. My new book that's coming up is called Win Where You Are. Win Where You Are. I'm trying to tell you, it's going down. And so 2023 is going to be exciting. I'm starting 2023 now, but I'm not missing 2022 to get to 2023. You hear me? But it's going to be these real talks. When I come on, I'm talking to you. I'm not here for fashion. I'm not here to show off some car or this or that. Not me. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to inoculate you, to help you to win where you are, and to build resilient leaders for life. Period. That's it. So when you look up Andrew E. Guy, that's what I'm here for. I run a program, educational program in the school districts. The website for that is Resilient Learners for Life. I'll say it slowly. Resilient Learners for Life. Go check out that program. If you're a school admin, if you're a principal, bring me in to talk to your students, and then we'll do a breakout session for your principals and your teachers to help them understand how to connect with the other students and stuff. Other than that, I'm always on the road. I'm doing corporate training. My focus really is to help the corporations, to help them understand how resiliency work and the compartments to building resiliency. It begins with the mindset, and the mindset is the change management part of it. You got to change your thinking, because the book says, as a man thinketh. As a man thinketh. That's another book you need to get. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, one of my favorite books. It's in my shelf up there too. As a Man Thinketh. It comes from a Bible scripture that said, as a man thinketh, so is he. So get that book, As a Man Thinketh, Work Your Words, The Anatomy of the Kingdom, and Power of Community. And go to my website, AndrewGuySpeaks.com, and get my book, Win Where You Are. Stop waiting to become. Fire! It's coming. I'm so pumped. Andrew, calm down. All right, here we go. And so the equity part that I wanted to finish up with is that we're not equal. We're not equal because we didn't go through the same stuff. I am not equal to Bob because Bob did not experience slavery. Bob did not get beaten, did not get chased by dogs. He did not get lynched. His people didn't get lynched. And you know, a lot of people, let me break this down a little bit here. A lot of people say, well, Andrew, you didn't pick cotton. You didn't get hung. You didn't sit on the boat. You didn't get your body decomposed and thrown off, you know, the deck of the ship and thrown off in the abyss of the sea. You didn't get that. So how can you talk about slavery? How can you tell me slavery impacts you? I said, okay, here you go. I said, when we talk about slavery, I am also doing a master's in psychology right now. Graduation is next December. So I am educating myself. You know, when people see me out there speaking, if they don't see me do a whole bunch of live, I don't have thousands of followers because I am busy increasing my knowledge. I am busy retooling myself. So when I open my mouth to speak, I can deliver. When I open my mouth to speak, I am not just talking crap. I'm not just saying stuff just to get likes. I have already liked myself. I have already liked myself. So if a person doesn't like me, or a person will look at my social media and say, well, man, you don't have millions of followers, because I'm not doing it for the wrong reason. I'm doing it for the right reason. A lot of people out there have a whole bunch of likes, but they don't like themselves. They got a whole bunch of followers, but they're not leading by the right example. Go figure. So I want to educate those people that are out there talking about, you know, followers and so forth, especially the young people. Don't let the likes fool you. Like yourself first. Follow yourself first. If you can follow yourself for 24 hours and become a changed person, then great, follow you. If you're not the best example to follow, find somebody in your family to follow first before you go follow somebody out there. Does that make sense? And if you can't find anybody on earth, you better follow Jesus and what he did. Period. Okay? So that's basically my point on that. In terms of the equity, I've already explained that. You cannot, no one is equal because everybody has a different background, different expertise, different raw autopsy, as we would say back in the Caribbean days. They didn't have the same training, and they didn't have access to the same opportunities to increase their knowledge. So they're not equal. So the equity part of diversity is falsifies, is fallacy, it's conjured up, it's only for marketing. Let's go into the inclusion. Not everybody is going to be included. Let's keep it real. You cannot include everyone. If you're trying to put a championship basketball together, you're going to have what's called a tryout. That's why you give people a probationary period. You hire somebody, you give them a probationary period to see if they're able to withstand all the pressure that the job title requires. Through this period, which I thought the probationary period was a good invention because it gives people a try. They give them opportunity at the table. They cannot say, well, I didn't get an opportunity. Yeah, you got an opportunity, you didn't make it. Period. And so because of that, you're not selected. But don't tell me that you're just not going to allow somebody to come to the table or give them an opportunity to try to show what they can do and then say, well, no, they're not able to. Don't do that. Give them a chance. Let them try out. And if they don't make the tryout, then fine. But don't go put blockage in their way, put blockade, and so to rig it where you guarantee that they won't survive or they guarantee that they won't make it. That is ridiculous. And that right there is inequality or being a barrier to the person's success. So if you give everybody level the playing field and say, here's the requirement, here's what you have to do, here's the probationary period, if you meet these requirements, boom, you get the job, regardless of your skin tone. Don't worry, don't get trapped on the skin tone, don't get trapped on the paint job of the car. Dig deeper and focus on the engine. The engine is their thinking, is their mindset, is that piece of real estate that lives between their ears. How they use that makes a difference. That's how you decide who to put on your team. Not their skin tone, not what they look like, not if they went to Harvard. I don't give a rat's where they went to school. Ivy or Ivy League or the Ivy Bean or a Hill of Beans. It doesn't matter. How are they thinking? How do they use the piece of real estate between their ears? That's all that matter. Because the book says, James Allen, as a man thinketh, had nothing to do with his color, so is he. And so we would have cleared up all of that color issue. And the reason why I'm saying is that because if you get sick, I'm coming to the inclusion. I did the diversity. I did the equity. I'm going to the inclusion. Now, the last part I want to talk about is I want you to think. I want you to self-reflect that if you were to, let's say, for example, have a heart problem. You have a heart problem and you wanted to get surgery. Who would you choose? Who would you choose to have? Would you want the best cardiologist or just your equity and diversity and inclusion run of the mill? Pause for a minute, think about that. That's how I feel about the diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense that they're talking about, and they're just doing it for political reason and just for corporate dollars. If we really do equity, diversity, and inclusion, we will change workplaces for good. What would you want? You would want to have the best. Because when you lay on that gurney, when you lay on that table, the operation table, you want to know that the person is not hired because of his color. You not want to know that the person is hired because they're trying to fill a quota. You want to know that the person is the best. And when you lay on the table, you're going to get up. Do you want a DEI anesthesiologist? Is that what you want? The anesthesiologist basically is the person that puts you to sleep and make sure you wake up. Why do I know so much about these different things? Because my background is in anatomy and physiology. I'm a biology major, a pre-med major. My goal was to go to medical school. And after going through all of these different things, taking the MCAT, and studying and visiting all these medical schools and so forth, and I get to see a whole bunch of these different things. Got to see open heart surgery at Herman Hospital in Houston. I was part of the biology club at Southern Arkansas University. That was my goal. But then after seeing all of that, I realized that's not my purpose in life. And so I want to know, because I do now have clients who are physicians. I have clients right now who are physicians. And the stuff that they're going through, I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh, I could have been going through the same thing had I gone down that road. But I'm so thankful that because I was open to learning more about myself, my idiosyncrasies and my skills and expertise and where my passion lies, I am so glad I didn't go to medical school. But I now work with doctors. I now work with nurses. I now work with medical and healthcare professionals to help them deal with this thing called resiliency. You need resiliency to become a doctor. You need resiliency to become a surgeon. You need resiliency to become an efficient or a successful dentist. I work with those people. Little me work with these amazing people. Isn't that amazing? But when you know where you're going in life, every road will not get you there. You got to know. If you have and know who you are, hey, that's all that matters. Know who you are, know what you have to offer, and know who to give it to. That's basically what it comes down to. So when we talk about the inclusion part, not everyone is going to be able to come to the table. Not everyone's going to get to the table, right? You need the key players. You need the right players who are going to make the difference. People who understand, people who can think, who can use critical thinking, people who are non-biased, non-judgmental, who can research, who can collaborate, who can use these 6 principles. People who are reliable and responsible, people who take initiative, people who are organized and ordered, people who can collaborate, and people who have good work ethics. If you have those things, those people, anyone who has those things and can apply them to your job should be at the table. That's how you do that. And so you need to have a criteria that you use to select people who come to the table. So you don't just pick the run of the mill. You don't just pick everybody who meander around. You need to make sure that you understand who is coming to the table. So when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, diverse mean that we're different. We have different expertise, different background, of different ethnicity, different biopsychosocial backgrounds, which impact our thinking, our cultural beliefs. All of these are different. That's what makes us diverse, right? And so because of this, then you know that not everyone are equal. No one is equal to a next person because no 2 opportunities are equal. The point guard's opportunity is not the same as the 2 guard or the 3 guard or the 4 guard or the center. I'm talking basketball now. I'm using that as an analogy. None of these are equal. You have to work, you have different strengths to get those particular positions. The same thing in life, same thing in your workplace. What are the strengths that the duty or the job requires? You go through those. And when you go through those, then you will figure out what needs to be done and make the decision based on those. But if you don't have a criteria to choose from, if you don't have a set of regulatory criteria to regulate, to govern, that is non-judgmental and non-biased, then guess what? That's what you need to make your decision. Did they meet the criteria or not? That's it. That's all you need. So you can do away with all that nonsense about the, I got to have diversity. I got to hire this much. I got to make sure I meet that quota. It's not about quota. Get the right people in there. And you would have taken care of the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion. Remember, not everybody can come to the table. If they didn't have the right criteria, that's basically what it is. You don't want every run-of-the-mill surgeon. You want the right one that's going to get the job done at the end of the day and be able to justify that. That's what you got to be able to do. When you choose somebody, be able to justify why the person gets the job over the other. Not just because they're a friend of yours, not just because you're buddy-buddy with the next person. That's what you need to do.
Peace. Until next time, keep listening, live ready, talk soon.